So I'm here with Jason, my friend, and he's the founder of avoidjw.com or .org?
.org.
.org. Okay. So why are you here for the protest?
Well, I was here for a number of reasons. I had some business to do on the Friday. Was talking to a number of solicitors, talking to the police. I've also been networking with Jehovah's Witnesses, ex-Jehovah's Witnesses.
Like myself.
Yes. And on Saturday I decided to go into the convention just to observe. I sat down, I have my own seat, talked to a number of attendants, some elders, observed the baptisms. Now I didn't stay for it all, there was quite a few baptisms. I think I stayed.
How many were baptized?
I don't know. I observed about 20 people. Of that number, I'd say a third of them were teens and the rest were various ages. Some were in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, even 60s. There was some elderly.
Did you see someone younger than teen?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't stay for
good.
it all.
That's really
that
good.
is good. I'm glad. It seemed like 15-ish was roughly the youngest I saw.
Okay,
and
that's
I think
good.
somewhere between 15 and 18 was about a third of them.
But they're still minors. It's actually a crime to make them force to sign a contract.
And I think so as well. I think anyone should
Because
be at
they
least
don't
18
even
at this
realize
stage.
it's a legal contract.
Agree, yeah, completely. But I also brought in a journalist who's doing a documentary, his own video documentary, so he was a little nervous going in, but I just told him, just walk up to the copy place, send me a text and I'll bring you in, you can sit down and observe with me. So he came and observed, and then we walked around the convention for a bit. In the afternoon yesterday then I went and met a couple of ex-JWs and an active JW who was a little bit nervous meeting me at first, but after a coffee he was really enthusiastic. He says, "You're quite normal."
Yeah.
So he, after 3 coffees, he says, "Can I treat you to dinner?" So he brought me down to a tapas restaurant, and
give him my address. He can treat me to dinner.
a very nice man altogether, and I'd just like to say hello to him if he's watching this video.
Yeah. I got message also from PMOs.
Yes.
And they send me screenshots from messages like PMOs talking to others PMOs, and they actually knew my name. Well, obviously, since they say so, I think they follow our channel. Some of the PMOs.
Yes.
And it takes a while to put all the pieces together, so I can't tell everything,
Yes.
And you don't want to tell what you were talking to the police, and you don't want to give the name of your PMO, and I will not give you the names of my PMOs.
No,
but there are people there basically hold hostage, and that's a creepy situation when you're, like, okay, I can tell you one PMO like his situation. He's married to an indoctrinated witness woman, and he has 3 semi-indoctrinated children, and telling that he doesn't believe in the mythology is basically like pushing a button that says divorce.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
So I respect that, but
And it's frustrating. I mean, that's where the religious rights or the human rights are infringed. It's like our Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 18, says that we have a right to believe. We have a right to change that belief or not hold a belief at all.
Yeah.
And so those other 2 aspects, the Jehovah's Witnesses focus on the one that we have a right to believe, yes, and we totally agree with that. But it's the other 2. What if I no longer believe? Or what if I want to change my belief to another religious belief? Or why can't I do that?
Yeah.
You can't within Jehovah's Witnesses, and we have to change that.
Yeah. And you heard about...
And Jehovah's Witnesses would have less problems if they allow people their human rights.
Yeah, basically, if they were less as-holish, they would be more holy. And the reason why people don't like Jehovah's Witnesses is because they have some inside knowledge about how witnesses behave. If they don't know how witnesses behave, they have no other idea than these people that are always smiling, When people dislike Jehovah's Witnesses, it's because Jehovah's Witnesses has done something. They are not persecuted in any way, and I love the witnesses as a group, I don't like the organization, but the people.
They're good people, and I think they're being taken for a ride by very devious individuals at the top. Who tell them nothing but make it look like they're sharing information with them, but they're not really. I mean, Jehovah's Witnesses have no idea how their organization is run at the top level. They have no idea that when they put their donations into the worldwide work, what exactly is the worldwide work. And it's more than they'd actually think. They might think it's got to do with the preaching work. They might think it's got to do with Kingdom Halls, but it's a lot more than that.
Yeah.
And I think they should start questioning that and ask where the money is being used, because they have a right to know.
Yep. Why would not a wonderful organization? I remember when they started this JW broadcast, they would say it's such an open organization. It's so open, having no circuit, because we are allowed to know who are our leaders. Well, that's basically every organization. Like the government of England, we know who's the Queen, we know who's the King of Sweden, we know who is this, who is that. You can't say that Witnesses is an open organization because we know Stephen Lett is in the governing body. And when he say, we're giving a report about money, he says, more money going out than going in. That's not a financial statement.
Yes.
And we are not allowed to know anything, and you will be disfellowshipped if you start asking questions.
Talking about Stephen Lett as well, he is also the individual that said that the apostates have said that they're permissive of child abuse. And he said that that's apostate-driven lies. We've never said that they're permissive of child abuse. It's changing the words. What we did say is that you cover up child abuse.
Yeah.
And that you try and hide it and put it under the table, as it were.
Yeah, the secrecy
and
culture.
Get individuals not to report it themselves.
Yeah.
So, if you want to be perfectly honest, be very honest, but don't twist words around to make it sound like we said something and we didn't say things at all. And that man knows better, because Stephen Lett was the overseer on the coordinators committee. In the coordinators committee, the legal department reports directly into the coordinators committee. And the legal department, when it comes to child sexual abuse, always copy on the coordinators committee on it. So Stephen Lett knows more about the problem of child sexual abuse than anyone else in the organisation.
Yeah.
So he's an extremely devious man. And in my books, he's the most important man to change child abuse policy within the organisation.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like our activism actually making a difference.
It is.
And like me personally, I'm, when we you taught my younger sister self-defense, you tell her kick for the ball sack because that's where it hurts, And the same with my activism, I'm aiming for the money bag. Because if you're aiming for the money bag, they get new light pretty fast. It happened to the Mormons, it happened to any cult. Like when the US government said to the Mormons, unless you end plural marriage, you will lose your real estate, and bang, they had new light really fast, and now they brainwashed themselves. So if you talk to the Mormons now, they say, no, we never really meant plural marriage, it was just a temporary thing, So they can brainwash themselves. Witnesses now believe that you should not, the Bible doesn't tell you to beat your kids. When I grew up, the Bible said you should beat your kids, but due to legalities and the change of law, now they actually don't, so they're making progress, but it's not thanks to the governing body.
No.
It's thanks to...
Yeah, and we're told that we're the enemies, but we're the one changing policy.
Yeah.
We're making policies a lot better for the organisation, and it's the greatest irony of all.
Yeah. My catchphrase? We can't remove the cult, but we can improve the cult.
Yes. Very good slogan.
That's why we're here. So, the Mormons also, I'm working with the Mormons because we are cousins, cousins in Zion, cult cousins, or cousins in Zion. So, and they have a former bishop called Sam Young, and he wants to implement in the Mormon rule book that there should be no one-on-one interviews with minors and no sexual explicit questions, because they do. We also have that in the Witnesses, but less than the Mormons, because they have a man called bishop between them and God that tells them if they're worldly. So they have to have like an interview once a year, and they start asking young girls, how many fingers are you using, masturbating habit, and that's like Sam Young, it's pre-grooming, because even if the first bishop doesn't do anything, and the second bishop don't do anything, the third don't do anything, those children, like I grew up in an environment where grown up are allowed to address you and talk about explicit sexual thing.
But you think when you're being asked these type of questions as a minor, these are the type of things that you're probably not even aware of, and then when the question is posed to you of something that you weren't even involved in, it's now put into your mind something that you weren't aware of, and I think that's extremely dangerous in itself.
Yeah, but we had Watchtower studies about anal sex, and then they asked, why didn't you raise your hand and answer? Was there something you didn't understand? You want me to explain it? And that's a normal situation for a Jehovah's Witness kid. And also, to some extent, to the Mormons, And what Sam Young said, which I agree with, is that's pre-grooming. The culture is grooming the children. So it's not only the two-witness rule that's the problem, the culture of secrecy is the problem, but also, the fact that you have pre-groomed children. When the field service, the meeting for field service, my parents will say, who can take, I was a bit of a handful, so can someone take care of Jonas? And then they would find some stranger and said, okay, you follow him and do whatever he tells you. And then it was some witness, and that was a normal thing. Follow this guy, trust him 100%. And he might start asking about masturbation and anal sex, and that's a normal thing. So those children are pre-groomed. So as soon as a pedophile pops up in the congregation, he can just say, okay, I'd like to encourage a young child. And he got access to a pre-groomed child. So I like this Sam Young, what he's doing, and I want to support him. I think we as ex-witnesses should support him, because we can actually get it into the penalty code. That having one-on-one interviews with children could be a minor crime, but asking the explicit sexual question could be a crime, like 1 month in jail or something.
Yes.
Because they are grooming children for the pedophiles and the
there are
guilt
certain
tripping.
subjects that they shouldn't be talking about in the Kingdom Hall setting, not with young children. I think they should be completely avoided.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to talk about those subjects, maybe you can write them in literature that is given to families, that they can do in their own homes, where they can help each other at the appropriate age.
Yeah, I think activism works. We can make some difference. We already got in Norway now that the government has started removing government support for Jehovah's Witnesses because they're not allowed to vote. And
it's not so much about that they're not allowed to vote. I think they recognize that they have a right as a religious group not to vote.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
true.
The problem is that they make their members actively shun someone when he doesn't, when he does exercise his democratic and human right to vote.
Yeah,
and that's the problem.
Yeah, that's the problem. Because if you and me want to start an organization that's named the Undemocratic Society, and we refuse our members to vote, and we will disfellowship them if they do vote, that's legal. Because that's the freedom of organization.
Exactly.
But we are not in any way allowed to punish them.
Yes.
And religion and cults, they find out ways. So maybe you sign fine print says when you enter an organization, if you leave the organization, this and this will happen to you. You owe us 1 million or stuff like that. Different ways of entrapping you. Entrapping is the right word? Trapping you in an organization. The entrapment section, that's the violation. So if a grown man decides to join an organization that's named the Undemocratic Organization of Non-Voters, that's legal. As long as you're allowed to leave with no consequence.
Yes, exactly.
Monetary or shunning or different kinds.
Exactly.
So.
And I think if we can see that change in Norway, maybe we can see it go across Europe. It would be nice, because I think we should all have the right, our democratic right, to be able to exercise our rights, because going back to the whole thing of religious rights, they cannot infringe on our human rights.
No.
And that's what Jehovah's Witnesses as an organization at the top level needs to realize, that you have your human rights and you have your religious rights, but you can't make them move into the human rights spectrum that inflicts upon my human right to family. And even my constitutional right to family.
People often believe that human rights, they know about freedom of religion or freedom of speech, and that's it. But there's so much more human rights than that, and especially the rights of a child. They have all sorts of rights. And
there's 40 articles in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
None of them can violate another one. So there's a balance.
Yes, and it's getting that balance. And I think Norway is actually doing a good job of acknowledging that. They're recognizing Jehovah's Witnesses' religious rights. But what they're also showing is, you can't go beyond that. That's great.
Yeah, we're making progress, but it's not good enough.
But that's the great thing about Scandinavian countries, I think.
They are actually great countries.
Very good for human rights.
Very leading when I think Sweden is leading when it comes to democracy. Denmark is the happiest people on earth. Norway is considered to be the best country on earth to live.
Is that why you're jealous of the Danish? Because they're so happy?
Nah, we're always used to be. Scandinavia is like the terrible place to live. We're always used to fight with each other. But then when the countries came more and more democratic, and social democracy and stuff like that, it's got more and more less important to fight. And basically, since Napoleon, Sweden haven't been in war since 1814.
Right.
We have this. We call it the Swedish Hedgehog. We mine our. You know, we
Right,
have.
right,
We just hide.
Yeah,
As long as you
curl
do.
up.
Yeah, we curl up. If you attack us, we have spikes in every direction.
yeah.
But we only go to war if it's necessary. And it hasn't been necessary for the last 200 years, which is
Great.
kind of an achievement.
It is. It's a huge achievement.
Yeah, it's not like Sweden is perfect, but
When
it's,
you consider that the Jehovah's Witnesses are saying the whole world's getting worse. Well, in the time from 1914, you've never had a war.
yeah, yeah. Well, since 1814 we haven't had a
That's
war.
what I mean. But even
Yeah.
in the period where it's supposed things have got worse, nothing has happened.
No, it's a great planet. So you didn't want to tell what you were talking to the police,
I can't tell
but
you anything about that.
I trust it's a good thing.
Yeah.
I'm talking to the politicians now because I don't want the fact that Jehovah's Witnesses can't get because of the shunning / voting thing, because I think it should be that you don't get money. #all religions must respect human rights. If they don't respect human rights, they should not get funding, because witnesses can really easily new light themselves around the voting
Of
thing
course.
and say, well, from now on voting is mandatory, and then 3 months later they say from now on voting is temporary, and then they can say voting is this, and just change the light once a month.
Because
And the government cannot, keep up with it.
I think what was clever with Norway was because Jehovah's Witnesses even said it. Their spokesperson said that when they vote, they've acknowledged themselves that they're no longer a Jehovah's Witness. But
Yeah, that's
the
okay. That's okay.
No, but the mistake he made there is that in Norway, with all the news reports that had been coming out in the weeks and months beforehand, they showed the difference between, or showed the similarities actually between disfellowshipping and disassociation.
Yeah.
So it didn't matter if they recognise that they're no longer, or whether they're actually kicked out through disfellowshipping. The
Yeah.
result is the same, shunning,
Yeah.
and they couldn't put blinders over the eyes of the Norwegian government, and I
Yeah.
think that's extremely important, and we have to stop them pulling blinders over any government or any organisations, which they've been doing for years, and they've been able to do that through the secrecy and the way they've been able to control the narrative. They're no longer able to control the narrative,
No.
and I think that's extremely important for our activism and for the future of the organisation and the future of people that are affected by the policies.
Yeah. No. You think activism works?
Definitely.
Then. Thanks for this interview. It's really nice.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.